Herb. Herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Herb.
Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. You got your co-host DanK and the other co-host, Reverend Will. We've got some stories to talk about locally, nationwide, cannabis issues. Real quick note, we're at Community TV, which is behind the Sheldon High School. That's where the studios are, and we definitely recommend people to join up. It's a heck of a group. So anyway, we want to talk about the Oregon Cannabis Connection newspaper, which is available around town, and I'll try to get a list next week. I didn't bring it here today, but anyway, the Oregon Cannabis Connection newspaper is a great paper out of Medford, and if you want to get a copy there, it's the Odyssey, juice houses, the smoke shops in town. Most of the places you can think of that would be that related would have them. So anyway, we wanted to talk about a story here that caught Will's attention right off. 7-year-old marijuana patient sparks debate over age limitations. Oh, what have you found on that article there, Will?
Well, you know, it's interesting because she's a 7-year-old leukemia patient. I'm sure you've seen her on the news, and who received medical marijuana treatments. And she sparked this debate because, you know, her parents are concerned as to whether or not she's too young and whether or not it would stunt her development. Now, Michaela Comstock was diagnosed with leukemia last spring, and her mother, Erin Purchase, 25, says 1 gram of cannabis oil daily has helped Michaela to go into remission and eases the side effects of chemotherapy. But her father worried she was frequently stoned and reported the situation to child welfare officials, according to NBC News. Now, Michaela says, first you get hungry, then you get really funny, then you get tired. Michaela's mother credits the drug for the leukemia's remission. As a mother, she says, I am going to try anything before she can potentially fall on the other side. You know, there's a lot more to this, but understand, folks, this is one of the problems we have. And right now, I happen to be watching a show earlier today where we had Pat Robertson was on, and they were talking about coconut oil. And we're talking about how coconut oil was helping these people with ALS and also Alzheimer's. And the thing that's most interesting is they don't have the money to follow through on the research that they would like to do. Well, I'll tell you, Pat, if you help us in this process of getting us so we can have research done with marijuana, because our understanding is, according to our friends in Canada, that they have a marijuana oil that's called Rick Simpson oil, because Rick Simpson was the one who designed it the way it works. And basically that's what they're talking about here with the 1 gram a day. In Rick's formula, it's 60 days of 1 gram a day. But the problem is that it takes 1.25 pounds of pot, good bud, in order to make enough marijuana oil to help. They also use the leaves for topical cancer and other problems such as psoriasis and things. So why is it, do you think, that our government is standing in the way from these beneficial chemicals? I mean, we just barely found out about cannabinoids, you know, because we're not supposed to do the research. And I'd like to know why it is that the government is so afraid of losing control of medicine that helps people. I mean, understand the vets have to fight with their doctors in order to get any kind of recommendation whatsoever, and they say they can't do it because of the federal law. State law, to me, should have precedence over federal law. And that if we want to do something in this state that the federal government doesn't agree with, I do not understand why they resort to the criminal element of blackmail. If you're not going to do what we want you to do, then understand you're going to get punished. We're not going to give you money for your roads. We're not going to, pay for timber harvest and stuff that are going on. So I would really like our government to be held to the same kind of accountability that we're held to. And that I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it in my lifetime. And it really needs to change, and the only way it's going to change is for the people to demand it to change.
That's right. As the bumper sticker says, if the people lead, the government will follow.
All right, so
Yeah.
for Michaela, I'm just glad that we were able to get this out, because I didn't know her name and stuff before, and I did want to know it and what her mom and dad are going through. I mean, here's this guy who's just trying to care for his daughter, but at the same time, he may be standing in the way of the one thing that's going to help her the most. Who knows?
Yeah, and there was on another case where a child was using medical marijuana on Good Morning America, I think a year and a half ago or something. I don't remember the details, but so.
MS patients used to come to me 30 years ago when I was getting them herb and thank me. I mean, tears in their eyes, just going, we are so grateful, because remember, folks, 30 years ago it wasn't legal. And just like it's not legal federally now, but I didn't care. I mean, understand, these people needed help. And when they came up and thanked me afterwards for being able to participate in society and be productive members of society because they were smoking herb, I mean, I don't know a business in this country that really has a problem with taking money from people who smoke herb. And you've been doing it for years. We're a basic part of your economy, whether you like it or not. And it sure would be nice if we could get the legitimacy that everybody else has. So, that's just one of those things to look at.
Yes, definitely. I picked up a story. This is out of Florida, and so it's quite a ways away, but it's just kind of an illustration of the police state and how we're still having to fight against that. Florida must pay attorney fees in an employee drug test lawsuit. So a federal judge has ordered the state of Florida to pay more than $190,000 in attorney fees in a case challenging an executive order ordering suspicionless drug testing of state employees issued last year by Governor Rick Scott, Republican. Surprise there.
Surprise.
Those taxpayers have now been lost to Scott's chimeric crusade to impose drug testing on various fronts. Last Friday, U.S. Court Judge Ursula Ungaro ordered the state to pay attorney fees to the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local 79, which filed suit to block the executive order in May 2011. The union is the plaintiff of the suit challenging Scott's ability to randomly test workers in state agencies. And also, the other law that he was instrumental in getting passed on testing welfare recipients also is on hold in court. So anyway, his insistence and drug warrior attitude is costing the government more and more money, which is we all know that it does. And,
right. That's one of the things that we've tried to share is the fact that, like in Oaksterdam, that's Oakland, California, where the Harborside dispensary has been known for going to the Oakland City Council and telling them straight up, look, we're having an excess of money that we have come in here, and we don't mind if you tax us. The thing is, we would like this money to be used to save your school system. Now, here in this state, I have personally gone to Mayor Kitty Piercy and also the last mayor in Springfield, not the one we have right now, and tried to talk to them, took a disc in there to show them exactly what was happening with Harborside. Never even got the courtesy of a response. Okay, and that's what happens with us, folks. If I was just talking to a nurse today who was talking to me about wanting to do some volunteer work, and yet I said, well, You know, our hands get tied by us not being willing to lie, and that's one of the things that she was talking about. With her doctor, she was told that you need to tell us that you're in pain. Now, this woman was in the military. She had a head injury, a neck injury, a back injury, and it's pretty serious. I mean, they're definitely treating her all the time, but she's not in pain. Okay, it's just problems medically within her body that are causing her to smoke herb. And they wanted her to lie, which is one of the things that I have a problem with. If you're an integrous person, you're not going to walk into your doctor and lie to get a medicine. Okay, so just remember that, folks, because integrity doesn't come and go. You either have it or you don't. You're not an integrous person if you lie, hedge on lying, lie by omission, any of these things. So with this lady, we were talking about her wanting to do volunteer work, and it's like I said, I can't mentor children because I'm not going to lie about the fact that I smoke pot. I'm not allowed to do a lot of things that are volunteer-wise. I volunteered to drive the van to Roseburg for the veterans. And you can't do that, you know, you smoke pot. So, I mean, understand I have a great driving record. I've driven limousines in San Francisco. I've driven buses here. I've driven cabs in both San Francisco and Detroit, Michigan. And I have an excellent driving record. And I believe there's a lot of us out there who do, because it does help us to drive. You may not think so, but see, the thing is, we don't put ourselves in those situations that they put you in when you're doing the testing and you're either really stoned or really drunk and you act poorly. Well, if you don't put yourself in those situations, you don't have to act at all. You just drive as a conscious, aware person, and you take care of your driving.
Yeah, that's right. And even being a medical marijuana patient isn't going to save you from that either, because we had an attorney tell us the only thing the medical marijuana law does is it keeps people from going to jail. It doesn't save your job. It doesn't make anything else
right.
Right.
You know, when you come back, when we come back in a little bit here, I'd really like to talk more about that aspect, because the way people judge us is how they're given information. It's not based on realness. I mean, we have a person in my trailer park is a person who smokes herb, and she saved a woman's life on Mount Pisgah. Okay, she set her broken leg and helped her get down the mountain and all this stuff. No credit whatsoever. You know, and yet, like my friend Mark, when he was beaten up, and the woman who came in to save his life because she told these guys who were beating him up and tried to stab him that she was calling 911 and they needed to leave him alone. Now, Mark goes to the hospital, and when I go over to pick him up, he's outside in a hospital gown, freezing. Okay, so, and then he's called a transient. But we'll talk more about this when we come back.
You guys are out of here, and we'll take a break, and we'll be right back.
And now, a message from the American Marijuana Growers Association.
Hi, I'm a farmer, and I work hard every day to grow high-quality marijuana, the biggest cash crop in these United States. I'd like to thank you for your support of U.S. marijuana policy. Because marijuana is illegal, I don't have to pay taxes. Even better, prohibition leads to artificially inflated prices, which means a better quality of life for me and my family, as long as I don't get caught. Just as importantly, your tax dollars support thousands of U.S. agents who work tirelessly to keep low-grade, foreign marijuana out of our country. So thank you, America. And remember, whether you're nauseated from chemotherapy or just in the mood for a nice cool buzz, choose the best pot in the world, American homegrown.
Welcome back. We're here. We're like a bad debt. We're back. So
We got to find some new terms on that.
Oregon Cannabis Connection. Will's been looking through the Cannabis Connection some more.
Once again, since we're showing this, I was going to read you some of the things that are within this that you can check out. Marijuana now legal in Washington and Colorado. We know this. Indoor Grow Guide is in this issue. Massachusetts is the 18th medical marijuana state. New Jersey opens dispensary. Spotted crow paroled early. Marijuana shown effective in fighting HIV and AIDS. Federal marijuana patient marks 30 years. National polls show huge support for marijuana. Recipes for pecan pie, cranberry buzz bars, and more. Welcome to Paradise, our Grow question and answer column to help those of you who have questions about what you're doing out there. A collective voice forms in Multnomah County. Will Oregon and Washington allow marijuana business in their banking? And 7-year-old medical marijuana patient sparks debate, and Oregon's U.S. attorney meets with ACMM.
And that's all in the Oregon, January-December 2012 Oregon Cannabis Connection. And by the way, they are also one of our sponsors, the Hemp Fest. And so they always have a booth there. You can talk to the people themselves. That's a great paper. Will was looking here, opened up to the article on Measure 80 failing, and this was a figure that I'd been wanting to get, and I figured it out here. We were 112,433 signatures short. So anybody that didn't vote for Measure 80 or voted no on Measure 80, you're part of the 112,433 people. I'll be ashamed of yourselves. But you're going to have another chance. I just found out that this is hot information that you're not going to hear anywhere else. I talked to the Paul Stanford, the chief petitioner that almost got OCTA, Measure 80, in charge of Measure 80. Anyway, he has now found several deep pockets that are going to finance the next 2 campaigns for 2014. They're talking about doing 2 initiatives. One will be an initiative to where they take the Oregon alcohol laws and change all the words to marijuana and submit to legislation. How can they argue against legislation for marijuana when it's modeled after the marijuana thing that they're doing right now? So it's an interesting concept. And then the other one will be a constitutional amendment, right to privacy, based on the Constitution. So run both and be on the ballot for 2014, and there seems to be financial backing to actually be able to finance that. So let's hope.
So here's some good news. Remember, folks, I brought on my friend once before, Philip, and Philip was a person who had been on dialysis for 25 years. When I talked to my nurse friend today, she was saying that's unheard of. And yet he says the only difference is the fact that he imbibes an herb. I wanted to read this little thing here about federal medical marijuana patient marks 30 years of safe use. So for during this whole time, the federal government is telling us that it's illegal and we can't do it, they've been giving herb to people who have been grandfathered in federally. Okay, and here's what he has to say. On Tuesday, November 20th, Florida stockbroker Irv Rosenfeld will celebrate 30 years of receiving 10 to 12 marijuana cigarettes a day from the United States federal government. Irv, 60, has now received and smoked more than 120,000 joints from the feds. Rosenfeld, the longest surviving of the final 4 medical marijuana cannabis patients, from a program that was started in 1978 and stopped under President H.W. Bush, and 13 others were grandfathered in what is called a Compassionate Care Investigational New Drug Protocol. Even though I have a severe bone tumor disorder, I am in great health because of my cannabis use, Rosenfeld said. The sad part is that the federal government either doesn't care or does not want to know how well I am. 18 states and the District of Columbia have enacted laws that declared that their citizens that need cannabis for medical use are not criminals. That's more than 40% of the population. Between 75 and 80% of the American people believe that physicians should have the right to use and prescribe medical cannabis in their practices. When will the federal government take real responsibility for the cost of health care and do what's best for patients? I am living proof that medical cannabis works, said Rosenfeld, author of My Medicine, How I Convinced the U.S. Government to Supply My Marijuana and Help Launch a National Movement, is available. It's on Kindle, which is nice. It's also at mymedicinethebook.com. So I just want you to know that we are not just talking out of our ears, that we're actually telling you the truth when we're sitting here. It's so funny that y'all look at us and think that we're crazy and we're out there, but it's actually your and our federal government that's out there because they're not accountable for what they're doing. Cancer patients, dialysis patients, these people in your family are dying because the federal government will not tell you the truth.
That's right. And one of the 4 federal patients is also one of the Alvi Musica, living here locally now. Been on our show many times. Will be in the future. So, but anyway, yeah. And by the way,
you know what I loved about that with Alvi?
What's that?
They actually upgraded the herb that was coming out of Mississippi. Finally, after all that time, when she had, you know, yucky herb.
But there's been an update.
And now they're going back to the old way.
Yep.
They're giving her the crap again.
Yep.
And she said it doesn't help her.
Yeah, it used to be they were sending her some real bunk. It was like ditchweed, absolutely worthless for a long time. And then a few years ago, all of a sudden the quality improved. She said it was actually pretty good. But now in the last few years, now it's deteriorated again, and it's already it's not even usable hardly now.
Well, see, you know, we know this because if you don't do it properly, if you over fertilize, if you don't have your hours right, it turns, you know, there's so much that's involved in the growing process.
Especially indoors.
Especially indoors. And you know, right now, I'm going to bring up the fact again that Colorado and Washington may be the first ones that actually have the legalization of recreational use marijuana. But Oregon was the first state that had industrial that was legalized, and we still haven't grown any because the federal government keeps lying.
We were the first state to decriminalize possession of less than an ounce, too.
See, there's so much out there, folks. Well, why should we? I mean, I've been fighting this fight. I don't know, Dan. I know you've been doing it a long time. I've been doing it for over 30 years.
Yeah, you're ahead of me. I think 15 or so. But yeah. Oh, yeah.
Came out here, you know, and the whole idea in coming out here was to get the kind of respect that I wasn't getting back in Michigan. And I found exactly the same thing happening here. Lies are believed, the truth is held down. And it's so sad because, like I say, I don't have the serious medical conditions in my family, such as cancer and kidney failure and things like this, where you have to go on dialysis. But if I did, I surely wouldn't be happy with the federal government and what they're doing right now in this process of lying continues. They've never had proof. I mean, they've gone through incredible times where they've actually gotten people to look at this in a negative manner, trying to come up with ways of being able to say that this is not beneficial. And they haven't been able to do it. If they did, for sure they would have been out there. When they talked about, you know, inhaling it with, you know, your lungs and it was bad for your lungs. So what happened? We created vaporizers, a whole nother industry. And that's the way it would go for us if we could get this state to quit being as dumb as the federal government and not allowing us to start creating this here and bringing in industries here before everybody else in the country can do it, and we can't.
Yeah,
or we're going to be the tail that wagged.
Yeah, that's right. We want to speak about the Kannabosm, that our local resource center. They got busted here last summer, and They've finally charged him with 7 felonies. They're going after his assets, $60,000 plus other assets. And this will be interesting how it turns out, because of my understanding, he has been working with an attorney from the get-go to run this thing legally.
Yep, from the get-go.
And so, and then people say, well, yeah, the feds busted him. No, it wasn't the feds. It was Lane County Narcotics. This is state and county people. This is not feds. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Brian Michaels is the attorney.
Right.
So
you know, the thing about this with Curtis is he has a good heart, he had good intent, and the federal government was doing absolutely nothing to take care of us in this process. They're still doing nothing to take care of us in this process. Anybody out there that can smoke that card that they got and have it help them medically, let me know. Because other than that, they haven't done jack for me. They haven't done jack for anybody else except, oh, hey man, give me some money. Give me some more money.
Yeah, well, they raised the funds. They were pretty good about raising the
oh, they're good
fees.
at that, but they're not good at being accountable for where they're at.
No.
That's why we asked them in the very beginning to give us an accountability of what they were doing with the money that they were getting from us. It's in the general fund, man. I don't know what happened to it. It just kind of disappeared like everything else. I mean, what's the difference between this and the mafia, folks? Understand, they're not accountable. They don't care. They don't care about us as a people. They don't care about our illnesses in this process. But I'll tell you what, if you look around and you see a lot of people who are smiling and stuff walking through their days, you might actually want to talk to them and see if it's because they're smoking herb that they're able to deal with all the stress and all the insanity of a government that doesn't want you to sleep outside. I mean, this is a little plug for Occupy. Protesting for the right to protest, I totally understand. I have been down at the federal building more times than I can count. I have been walking across country for nuclear disarmament. All these things were forms of protest. And you know what? I was actually a part of the initiation of the camping ordinance, because the homeless people were the ones who were coming and helping me to stay awake and to keep my ongoing protest happening. And that's when they initially came out with that $80 camping ordinance for nodding. So thanks today, folks. Hope we didn't put you to sleep. Hope we gave you some good information.
We'll be back next week. Come on by or stop on by. Talk to you later.
Stop on by.
Herb. Herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Why these people who want to do so much good for everyone, who call themselves governments and this and that, why them say you must not use the herb?